Tomorrow, ET Now's daily platform for the Indian micro, small and medium enterprise sector. On this series, it's our endeavor to celebrate entrepreneurship, bring you expert advice from renowned business leaders and help you grow your business. Today on MSME Dialogues, we're exploring the opportunities that exist for the retail space, for the micro, small and medium sector. I have a very interesting panel joining me here today. We have Pinaki Ranjan Mishra, he's a partner and national leader at EY. We have Kumar Rajgopalan, the CEO of the Retailers Association of India, as well as Sushi Pandya, the CEO and co-founder of Pippa Bella. Thank you all very much for being here today to speak with us. I want to start off by first and foremost getting a sense of the opportunity that really exists for retail, and then we can drill it down further to talk about MSME. Maybe I can start with you.
So I think we all know in India retail has been a very large opportunity, and we are not again a country with only big retailers. So I think it's a large opportunity for various types of retailers of all shape and size, and it's growing almost at 10% to 12% growth rate. If you look at the overall sector, and if you look at the larger or the organized part, that's growing almost close to 20%. I think these are big numbers. If you look at the whole overall global economy, these are really big numbers. And personally, I feel that it's just a massive opportunity that people can leverage.
Okay, so the massive opportunity that exists for the sector, but how much of that is the MSME space really in a position to tap into?
Our guess would be that almost, if you really look at the size of India and retail market as on date, I think our estimates is about $600 billion. As per our last study, it will go up to about $1 trillion by 2020. Just by 2020. Of this, about 20% would be for the so-called organized sector, which also includes e-commerce, by the way, and the rest of it is still going to be the typical mom and pop traditional retail stores. So it's still very, very large. Even of this 20% that we talk about as organized, if you look at the typical size of a retailer, especially for people who become members with us, normally it's the organized retailers who become members with Retailers Association of India, because we insist that they should be giving a cash receipt to every customer. Small insistence, but that really segregates the market. Even there, if you look at, almost 70% of our members are from the MSME sector, because that's what retail in India is about. When you was talking about the size, the estimate is that there are about 13 million stores in this country, which means there is one store for 100 customers in this country from a physical standpoint, physical store standpoint. And then if you start bringing in the e-commerce part of the business, I think it's as large as it gets. So we would guess that almost 90% of the total retail, even by 2020, would be by the MSME sector. So that's quite large, of $1 trillion.
So Kumar is talking about the e-commerce space, Suchi, and you're someone who knows that space really well. So just give us a sense of how things have really changed. The landscape that exists right now has undergone, I'm assuming, a massive change with the entry of e-commerce.
Yes, definitely. And in fact, within e-commerce itself, there's been a massive shift with respect to what is now becoming more important. So initially with Amazon and Flipkart being marketplaces, there are certain metrics that you measure that tell the success of a retail venture, whether it's GMV or the kind of volume that you're doing. But now retail online is being defined a lot more by stronger metrics, more back to the fundamentals, which offline players are masters at. So your strong unit economics, profitability, trying to build customer loyalty online, trying to create a more personalized shopping experience for users. These things are a lot harder to do online because there's a distance, there's a screen between you and the user. So you have to really, try and find the right formula or the right mix that can help connect to the user in the right way. So that really, is sort of, I would say, the challenge for most e-commerce companies going forward is how do you really tap into that and figure out what the user is looking for, how to do it best.
But okay, Suchi's talking about some of the larger e-commerce players. Do you think that the marketplace model and the e-commerce model is really maturing? Because there's some questions right now being raised on valuations, questions being raised on whether cash on delivery really is one of the best options. So do you think we are at now really a sweet spot as far as the market goes?
See, I think it's an interesting point, and if you look at the recent change in regulations that the government did on the whole platform business, I think probably this will give a lot of boost to the smaller retailers who can now be on the platform, leverage the best of what the bigger players can offer, but also have be in direct touch with consumers. So I think that's one. Suji made a very interesting point about how the online players are learning from offline. And I think if you look at one big area where the MSME is benefits from big retail is that the whole learning part. So if you look at many of the kiranas today, go to the kirana stores that you used to visit, maybe for the last 4-5 years. Look at the change. They have become modernized. They have got good billing systems. The lighting systems are different. Their merchandise is different. They are looking at category management. It's a whole much more scientific. And if you look at the ROI that these retailers today are getting than what they got 5 years back, I'm sure it's much better. And a large part of the credit goes to the organized retail to have infused this into the smaller retail. Probably, your sector is seeing it now, but I think it's a big opportunity for the MSME retailers to actually, on one hand, see that the market is large, but on the other hand, also learn the good practices from the big retailers. Because, not giving invoices and all is not going to long-term work. We will have, things like GST coming, you have no option. So best is how do I learn, how do I professionalize, how do I become modern and do a good business.
You operate in what I presume is still a very niche space. Just give us a sense of your experiences. What kind of challenges have you faced? Why did you decide to go with the route that you have, and what was the thinking behind it?
So I would say, just to bring it into the conversation, the idea is that there are pros and cons with being in a marketplace, right? I mean, being online doesn't necessarily mean that yes, you'll grow, simply because now there are so many players. Competition is really strong, and the problem is the user experience. Actually, if you go on any of the websites, you're inundated with product, right? So at the end of the day, you have to really sift through a lot to find something that you like. So that's one of the disadvantages, I would say, of marketplace models, as opposed to going to the Kinara store that you're used to going to, picking up what you like and being happy, right? Simple, fast, quick, efficient decision. That being said, I think for me personally and for our company, what has driven me towards not leaning in a marketplace model is the margins, right? Today marketplaces, have become more of a discounting game. So you're talking about, people giving 50, 60, 70% discount. So at the end of the day, it's eating into a retailer's margin too. When you have your own brand and you're focusing on metrics that are stronger, brand loyalty, user experience, you can charge a premium to the customer for it, and that helps with respect to the customer also understands that they're getting a better deal at the end of it, because it's not just some cheap product. All of those things really help in creating a sustainable business. So I think definitely, a lot of the things we've talked about here, creating that combination offline, online is very critical, because that is going to be the future. Customers still want to touch and feel. We're not in that culture where, everything can just be bought online. Diamond jewelry, it's very difficult to spend 70, 80,000 rupees online. You still want to go and experience a product, So I think that is going to be very important. And as I mentioned, maintaining loyalty, focusing on metrics that are stronger as opposed to just your typical marketplace metrics, I think is going to be very important going forward.
Okay, let's take a very quick break at this point, but I definitely want to talk about FDI. I want to talk on GST. We are, of course, on the Leaders of Tomorrow MSME Dialogues. We're discussing the retail opportunities that exist for the MSME space. Just stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow on MSME Dialogues. Today we're talking about the opportunities that exist for the retail space as far as MSME goes. Just before we took the break, Suji was talking about discounting, and I know that's a huge debate in the industry right now. On which side of it do you lie?
So this whole concept of giving delivery free, giving deep discounts, giving a discount which is more than what a brand could afford, making sure that that they are giving payment on delivery, all these were needed to be able to build the amount of trust that was required from the consumers. So I think it was need of the hour in some form, but it's not a very healthy sign to continue in a longer period of time, because mere discounts without adding value there are always in most markets 2 or 3 or 4 players who would be discounters. The rest of them have to keep creating value in a lifestyle segment. I think that's where the real market growth comes in. Some of them can be very, very good at it, but discount is a very bad friend to have, because you don't know at what point of time you are not giving enough discount, somebody else comes on to discount. This is known by every retailer. I mean, everybody knows that if you are going on the discount model, only 2 or 3 will exist, the others will land into trouble. So this is where we are as an association. If you really look at it, I think it's about 2 or 3 can be on discount. But what is more important is this whole level playing field. If everybody is accessing funds, and every retailer needs funds, and the biggest worry, and when we come to the challenges faced by the entrants to retail and the challenges faced especially by the MSME sector, is access to funds.
Lots of points you've raised. I want to pick on one of that, which is funding. Most of the queries that we get in at this point on the show are from entrepreneurs who say, how do I go about raising funds? You've raised funds. What's your experience been?
Right now the climate's a bit different from what it was 8 months ago. I think it really comes down to, especially if you're in a retail sector, I completely agree. Funding options are limited, because if you're going to a VC, there are very few VCs who understand the consumer game, right? Many of them understand the tech game, they understand the B2B game very well. There are enough, I would say, proof of concepts that exist in the market. Companies or brands or retailers that have actually been successful in raising money and have grown quickly over a short period of time, they're very few, right? Most of the brands that exist and have been successful have been built over 20-30 years, and let's face it, I mean, VCs don't have time to wait that long to make an exit, so they're looking for quick opportunities to make money, and hence them investing in retailers, there's smaller people, the fewer people who understand that space. That being said, I think it's changing simply because what in the last few months, what I think VCs have seen largely is that the whole GMV game is not going to hold up for very long. As you rightly said, discounts are not going to last forever. And you're basically raising money to offer discounts to the customer. You're just passing that money back on to the customer. It's not sustainable. You're going to continuously need cash to grow and to scale up. And that's where I think retailers have an advantage, because they can they understand the metrics much better, in the sense that they have a better understanding of how much ROI they're getting on every spend or every money that they're spending on acquiring a new customer. So if you can really get these numbers down and really focus on those areas, then the cash is there. VCs are willing to fund. Okay. It's just what kind of business metrics are you focusing on? Creating a lifestyle business, as you pointed out again, is something that now is. People are beginning to wake up to this idea that yes, we can fund lifestyle businesses. So I'm very optimistic. I think that as long as you have and you've shown the growth and the scalability, you can really do something. I think what's important also in this space is that you have to the consumer market is growing, right? I mean, you're online, especially, you're adding about 100 million new users are going to be added now in the next 2 to 3 years online. So you're talking about really capturing the interest of that consumer through something that's not just discount driven. So what does that mean? That means, creating a sustainable brand, creating some idea of what your product is, so that the first name that comes to mind is going online and typing in that website and shopping there. It's not just about who's offering me the best product, but also who's offering me the best experience.
Sure. Pinaki, so, of course, there is the entire, debate on finance and how to raise funds. So, she was talking about VC, Kumar was talking about, SIDBI and banking essentially. What advice would you have to give to MSME retailers who are looking to raise funds?
See, I'll tell you, I understand this fundamental, construct of a VC having a challenge. If you look at globally all retail, there's one very clear, significance of retail business. All of them are family owned. Look at any, be it Walmart, be it IKEA, all of them are basically family owned business, or Starbucks, for example. And what you see, if you look at their growth, they've all grown through patience, making the model right, rather than getting a lot of funding. I think the kind of issue you see today is you don't wait for 5 years, 10 years. You start the fund in the first year because you want to grow faster. I think that's where the big and somehow in retail it doesn't work, because the challenge in retail is one small mistake then amplifies into 100 mistakes in 100 stores. So you can't afford that single mistake. It will cost you big time. But the way things are is I have to have 100 stores in 5 years, otherwise I don't have my valuation. I think there is a fundamental, what should I say, discord in the whole retail model vis-a-vis the funding model, and my sense is that has to settle down. It has started to settle down. So I think you are seeing in online now a lot of correction, because people have realized. I can tell you, I mean, whatever little, I'm not a great retail expert, but whatever experience I have seen, that making things wrong is, if there is one industry which is not going to recover, it is retail, because the mistakes just keep on amplifying. India is a market with 50-70% turnover of people who are executing it down the ground. At that kind of ecosystem and environment, it is not going to work.
Okay, so at what point of the life cycle do you think an MSME retailer or entrepreneur should be looking at bank funding for further growth and should be looking at VC, or are they separate models and should be looked at separately?
No, I think the mode of funding can be a decision point. I think the point is when you inherently believe, and an entrepreneur believes it not just by having an Excel sheet working, probably some of it is very intuitive. When you are able to understand that yes, I have a winning model, and that winning model is not that I have 2000 extra consumers, the fact is that that model makes sense from also a business perspective in terms of profit. I think if that is there, and you are right, that if that chart is there, that yes, my system works and it works at the right model. See, by giving discount, anybody, today you start a business, give 50% discount, you will also build a big retail business. That's not a business, right? So I think that's crucial. So do it at the right time, but be a little sure of your model, and once you are, and you are right, if there are people available to fund who see a right model, it was much easier earlier. I think things are going to become tough, but I mean, I agree with Kumar that it's a big opportunity, but probably to be done the right way.
Okay, so I think just to add to that, I think now what's happening is that you have to, to answer your question also about debt versus equity. Firstly, there are now options available where you can approach, banks, and they also have this, convertible debt option that they provide, where they will invest, and the debt can convert into equity depending on certain performance metrics, etc. But one interesting model that's also coming out is the whole negative working capital model, where you actually don't require funding, you don't require working capital to launch a retail business. So it's more of this made to order business that's actually moving now online, and it's fairly capital efficient model as well. So you can create a very sustainable business there, solid metrics, without having to invest in any inventory or do any heavy investments there.
Okay, so that's essentially as far as funding goes. Let's also talk about GST. And GST, once it does come, is definitely going to be a game changer for the industry. Do you think that MSMEs right now are in a position to really tap into that opportunity, and what should they do to ensure that they're GST ready?
I think the MSMEs have to get into this whole structure of ensuring that everything that they're doing has got a very high governance model. Okay. First and foremost, I think this whole reporting that is required has to be out there. I don't think that should be a question of debate at all. Whether GST comes or no is a slightly different topic. To start with, for example, most of the states have got VAT. So if somebody is buying in from a distributor and selling items, by not disclosing that they are selling and doing a whole lot of cash transaction, I don't think they are going to be left aloof for too long. Because if you've got a VAT input, you've got to take input credit, there are people who are supplying to you, you know that that person is a distributor. The day the government feels that this is it, I'm going to clamp down on these guys, this is it. Any single state can do it. So to that extent, I think the need for visibility is currently already there. But the beauty of GST, and I think that's where the whole point is that people can suddenly start thinking that India is one full nation. Each part of the country is accessible to them, and like I keep telling in various forums, I think it's about the fact that most of the retailers today sit an inordinate amount of time to plan distribution based on taxation models rather than transportation models. I think that problem gets solved the minute you have GST coming in. Hopefully, they'll come in with the right kind of proviso, the ease of doing business kind of stuff. Otherwise, why should retailers invest? For example, we are sitting currently in Mumbai. Why should retailers have to open up a distribution center just outside Mumbai and one distribution center inside Mumbai? Because there are some which are octroi paid, some which are not octroi paid. Then the minute they have to send some item to Gujarat, they start thinking twice. If it is going to West Bengal, I think they have a nightmare, because individual items have to have all kinds of requirements. I'm sure various experts would be able to tell you those details. But that is what is happening. So it's not like it's one India, and then the cascading effect of taxation is far too high. Most of the retailers still buy from various kinds of distributors in various parts of the country, and they don't consolidate the buys because they know that the impact of taxation on them could be so high that it's better to have a distributed buying pattern rather than a consolidated buying pattern. Now these are things that will get eased out, and that's beautiful news for all kinds of retailers, irrespective of whether they are really small or very large. Even small retailers sometimes would like to open up a store in Mumbai, the other one in Jalgaon. Why not, if that's where the consumers are for them?
Okay, fascinating conversation, but we're running out of time, so I'll possibly get quick closing comments. And I have to ask you, Suchi, and talk about your experience as a woman entrepreneur. For women entrepreneurs who are watching this show, what has your experience been, in one line, if it's easy, to talk about both, fundraising as well as the business opportunities that really exist?
Firstly, I would say, stop thinking of yourself as a woman entrepreneur. Think of yourself as an entrepreneur. That will help a lot, because you'll be focusing on things that really are important, which is having a good, solid business model. And I would say, if you are looking at raising funds, start early. The environment is a little questionable right now, so start early, approach people who are relevant to your sector, and have a really good, strong business metric.
Okay, Pinaki, I want to ask you about how you think the face of retail is going to change in, say, the next 5 to 10 years, and what is the opportunity specifically for MSME?
I think the biggest change will be the increase in probably investment in technology, investment in transparency, and going to the next level in terms of actual execution of operations. I think that's, if you look, so the way a small retailer is looking 5 years down will be far closer to how a modern retail operates than what it is today. And we're already seeing that change, across some of the larger of the smaller players. So I would say that will be the significant change probably that I see in the retail sector, and people have to be prepared for it, because if you are not ready, if you don't think of investing in this system, I think you're going to lose out.
Kumar, what would you say?
I think there's a huge opportunity for creation of newer kinds of brands in this country. We are one of those countries that's got lots of retail stores, not enough brands. If somebody has to do a store, a very large department store of 800,000 square feet, there aren't enough brands to fill up even 100,000 square feet in our country. So many consumers, such diversity in consumers, and yet I think not enough is getting invested in creation of brands in this country. So if lots of smaller retailers, newer entrants come in, very clearly thinking marketing, positioning, creating lifestyle, pushing items back to the consumers, I think there is an opportunity to at least make the number of brands available in this country to another 10 times. That's when it can come to a saturation point. Every single category in this country, I think, needs more brands in them. I know that as women, for example, if you have to buy formal wear for offices, I don't know how many brands come into your mind.
Not too many I can think of at the top of my mind.
Yeah. So I keep wondering, so where is it that we're going wrong? Because if you're wearing salwar kameezes, not enough brands. If you're wearing formal western outfit, not enough brands. Jewelry, I think she's taken up a fantastic product to really sell.
But Kumar,
brands.
That is the reason why we have so much of MSME. That's why there are too many of the small players who are not allowing too many big brands.
Yeah.
All right, thank you all, Kumar, Pinaki, Suji, thank you so much
Thank
for
you so much,
coming down and having this conversation. That's all we have on this episode of Leaders of Tomorrow MSME Dialogues. If you need expert advice for any aspect of your business, do feel free to get in touch with us, and we'll try our best to get our experts to help you. You can write into us at leadersoftomorrow@timesgroup.com. You can reach us on social media using the hashtag LOT, and also remember that number which is on the bottom of your screens can be used to call. Thanks so much for watching.